I'm Hope Chauland. I'm a security go-to-market manager in the UK business group at Microsoft. I have this awesome topic to talk to you about. It might sound slightly generic when we talk about tackling the changing landscape, it's global, what are Microsoft doing? But my promise to you today is that I understand from the fantastic lineup I've just been looking through, you've had a lot on strategy, you've had a lot on product-led talks, you've had a lot on what's next, what have you done, where's the gaps in your security posture. What I want to do in the spirit of Cybersecurity Awareness Month is I just want us all together to just take a big bird's eye view over this talk, over this session of what is happening on a global scale. What are we doing at Microsoft? What do we care about? What am I doing as an individual? Feel free during this talk as well to share what you're doing as well. I'll invite you, don't be scared. And then I want to talk about how I think the future can be and how we can all move forward together and what our responsibilities are as we move into things like AI transformation. And so with that, I'm going to start by thinking about what the new normal is. Now, it's no surprise to anyone here in your profession and in our industry in cybersecurity that the headlines that we see today, all the cyber threats that we're seeing in different countries, it is the new normal. It's no longer a matter of if it happens, but it's a matter of when. It's no longer a matter of do we invest, but have we invested enough? Have we covered everything in the kill chain? Have we covered any gaps? Is our security posture today standing up for what's coming tomorrow? And what really can be frightening at times is the fact that if we look at the financial impact that we're up against, right now today in 2023, we can see from research and reports that the annual cost of cybercrime is at $6 trillion. So that's worldwide on a scale today. We are not far from, dare I say it, Christmas and the end of the year, and we already know from the data that moving into 2024, next calendar year, it's already at $8 trillion. That would be the cost of annual cybercrime worldwide. And then when we're forecasting and looking at research and where we're going with that, it's staggering. It's not slowing down. Cybercriminals are not going out of business anytime soon. They're utilizing the innovations just the same way we are in our roles. And that's looking at being $10.5 trillion in cost. Now, when I think about these numbers that I used to hear 10 years ago and that I'm still hearing now, I'm getting kind of numb to it. I don't know about you. You might hear 10 trillion, but you might feel quite numb to that. So I want to just flip that perspective for a second and just show that if cybercrime were a national economy, just say it is, let's just be hypothetical. If it were, it would be the third largest national economy in the world. So just take that a second. Because if you hear the numbers, you've heard them, you're numb to them, just take that in for a moment. So if we think about, of course, the United States, who are leading number 1, we've got China number 2. If cybercrime were a national economy, it would be third largest in the third largest in the world. See, it's that big. And it's not just financial as well. It's personal, right? So a lot of us in this room, we've got in our own jobs a responsibility, whether you are technically implementing, whether you are running a strategy, reporting to the board, running a team of engineers, running a SOC team. Those of us here have a personal responsibility with a lot of pressure against this wave. Second to that, you're being pulled into also now thinking about something a lot softer, which is everybody's experience in the business a good one? So we want the biggest, hardest, most reliable technology to secure us, but then you've also got to have this softer user experience. Is everything seamless? Is everything invisible? Is everybody else in the business, apart from you, kind of carefree and not thinking about it, and they don't even know about all these amazing signals and technology happening in the background? So you've got that push and pull where you've got both priorities. And then when I think about an industry lens from a global landscape, I'm thinking about things that I didn't expect to happen in the last 10 years, such as the focus on the education industry. I'm always thinking about people who are in the financial industry for cybercrime. I'm thinking about the retail industry. Then I'm thinking the trends I'm seeing in education. So I'm thinking about my daughters in education. I'm thinking about the fact that we are using more technology in classrooms now, and so cybercriminals are paying attention to this. And it was actually this time last year at Cybersecurity Awareness Month inside Microsoft, I heard an amazing story, not an amazing positive story, but something that shocked me was a story about someone in political power whose children had been targeted. What school are they in? What classes are they attending? Getting the political parents' personal details. Like, I'm not thinking about that, but if it was my business and I was the third largest economy in the world, then of course they're always innovating. Of course they're always looking at new industries and new ways of making cyber attacks. Then there's our healthcare. So whatever avenue you take for your healthcare, it affects us all. That is personal to all of us. Our health is personal to all of us. It is our priority. It is all we have at the end of the day. And so the healthcare sector is also being attacked, and especially in the UK, where everything is quite centralized, we know that this is a really important sector to pay attention to. And I've said personal enough, but our personal details. Your job title, where you live, who you live with, everything is out there in data, and that's why it's also personal and not just financial. But I'm not saying that nobody has been doing anything about this. I think we've all been spending the last decade focused on our digital transformation. And as a result, we don't live in a world now with clear network boundaries. It's not as simple as having a clear perimeter around where you go to work, what your workstation is when you approach it. Instead, we're looking at this transformed world now where everything is distributed. So everything's just moving around. We've got our cloud apps, we've got our identities. I know my colleague and friend Rohit's here, so you would have heard things about we're not just talking about the identity of people anymore. We're talking about workload identities. We're talking about the identities of different clouds. We're talking about apps and resources being identified. Amongst everything and everything, there's data moving around, there's workloads, networks, and then, of course, we all need to get online and get somewhere, so we're also approaching the endpoint. And that clear network perimeter that we originally had, and that looking back can probably seem quite comforting, although at the time it would have also been quite frustrating, we're now looking at network channels everywhere, for everything, for anyone. And the benefit of that is that we can work anytime, anywhere we like, from any device. I love identity and access management. It's one of my favorite topics, and therefore I'm a real champion of anytime, anywhere. As a mother of two, working full time, I work anytime, anywhere as well. So it's really important, and we've benefited from that. But as they say, with great power comes great responsibility. There is also this big amplification and distribution of the landscape itself. So there's more entry points, there's more threats, there's more vulnerabilities. And so when I think about the defenders, all of you in the room, myself, all the security leaders, I'm not picturing as such being able to feel like, let's say, like a Marvel hero cover, right? Where you can stand tall and you're feeling good. People are feeling like the odds are against them. I think everybody is. This number, this 4,000 password attacks per second, I remember looking at it 2 years ago and it was about half of that. So now we're at 4,000 password attacks per second, if you're still using passwords. I don't. Just scans my face, it's brilliant. And then we're thinking about just over 60 minutes, if someone in your organization, just one person, innocently clicks on a phishing link, then it takes just over an hour for all of that data to be leaked, that data to be accessed. And again, when we're thinking about being heroes and not having the odds against us, what about the fact that we've got that global shortage of cybersecurity skills? 3.5 million are in demand that can't be met. And we at Microsoft take this responsibility really seriously. We can't ignore, we are the biggest security vendor in the world. We do have that responsibility with nearly 100,000 customers in over 120 countries. And therefore, whilst we're doing all that really good work and we've got all the technology and we're blocking all of these attacks, when we look to the future of how we're protecting the landscape, we're looking at how do we collaborate further? How do we take this great innovation and form new partnerships? How do we make this a collective defense together? And I don't know about you, but the last year has been pretty overwhelmingly amazing with the amount of product releases we've had. Of course, I haven't put 300 on a slide, but what I have done is put a few highlights here that I've really enjoyed being a part of over the last 12 months. And so when it comes to threat protection, we're thinking about that huge piece of defender threat intelligence. So one person having that, one organization having that, but to the benefit of all. Thinking about identity and access management. I know Rohit would have done an amazing session on this today, but I personally have been really impressed, especially with talking to customers about identity lifecycle management, the new governance flows, the relief I see when customers are talking about automating a lot of these processes, saving a lot of time, being able to know where permissions are when people come, when people join, move, leave, go, come back. That's the nature of our work now, and being able to keep up with that and automate that in governance lifecycle flows. Entra permissions management, launching last year. This one really touches my heart because it absolutely focuses on democratizing security. And what I mean by that is when I think about Entra permissions management, or EPM, I'm really proud that Microsoft have this cross-functionality across clouds. So it's not just being able to right-size and optimize permissions in the Microsoft cloud, in Azure. You can also do the same with AWS and with Google Cloud. And I just love the way they're taking that with new innovations and saying, this is one for us and one for all, and really democratizing cybersecurity in that way. Then we've got Purview. So data security, you'll see we used to go to market thinking more about compliance, quite harsh, that idea of being compliant. Are you compliant? Is your data visible? Where is it? Is it labeled? Now we're taking that more data security is everywhere. Like oxygen, it is absolutely everywhere. If you think about the matrix, if you could see it, that's how it would look, right? So being adaptive and being aware and being able to just track everything instantly when you need to with your data is becoming your money. And then finally, can't ignore it, can't not talk about it, AI-powered future of security and what we're doing with Microsoft Security Copilot. It is so exciting. So going forward, we are absolutely behind these investments. We're going to be investing 20 billion over the next 5 years. And a huge part of that will be the focus on artificial intelligence. And so we strongly feel that having a successful defense is going to be really moving against that strong tide and that strong wave I talked about when I talked about that we're going to be looking at there being trillions and trillions of cost. They're going to be 4,000 password attacks per second. So let's say in 2 more years, that's 8,000. That tide is huge. That tide is scary. But with AI-powered technology, we're going to start reversing that tide. It is a really exciting time. It is going to be a game changer, and it's going to rise against it. And I'm really glad you're all here to be part of it, especially Kocho, of course. And so our responsibility in working with great partners like Kocho means that we get to take what we've got and really empower all of our customers. So we're in that unique position where we have a diverse range of security data. We have 65 trillion threat signals that we're analyzing a day. Behind that, we have an incredible, incredible system of engineers, of researchers, of cybersecurity experts, over 100,000 of them. And then finally, I love this stat that of managed devices where we're providing insights and getting intel, there's over 135 million. So we're in that unique position of having that data set. It's diverse, it's huge, it's global, it's changing by the second, and we're analyzing it. And that gives us this amazing position where we're able to start helping customers with their AI transformation. Everybody has been all over digital transformation. If you have, and you've been taking those steps, then you are absolutely on your way to getting AI ready. But getting AI ready is an absolute transformation in a really positive way if it's done really well. And the 3 pillars at Microsoft that we talk about for this are, number 1, let's amplify that art of human ingenuity, so being the lead, but having the co-pilot of AI, generative-powered AI. Second to that, delivering transformational experiences. So if we think about, when I think about like the days of SIEMs coming on, And people being like, well, that's just going to be a lot of work. That's going to be a lot of work to be able to ingest all of those data logs. It's a lot of work to have people learn the language of security so they can spot anomalies. This is a lot of work. This doesn't make sense. And now look how we're using it. And I see that transformation, those objections, those fears, those worries around regulatory, I see it all happening again, which is good. That's human nature, right? That's how we always survive. I see it all happening again, but with AI transformation. And that is the second pillar of just making that experience matter, making it intelligent, making it worthwhile. And then the third piece, of course, safeguarding your business, your customers' businesses, and the partners that you work with. So as I mentioned before, happy Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I hope that everybody's had a chance to take a break and think not just about the exciting, crazy innovations that are coming, or the basic foundations of our cyber hygiene, or the 7 steps that you might have learned today in doing something. What have you done for your family and friends this month? What have you shared around cybersecurity? Did you share anything? And if not, this is your reminder to do so. So my personal challenge was sitting my 8-year-old twin girls down and talking to them about cybersecurity awareness as it relates to Roblox and Minecraft. They're on it continuously, no parent shaming here. They use that a lot, and I realized in my day job, I'm always talking about cybersecurity, about awareness, about threats. Am I thinking about my 2 daughters in my house and what they need to know about? So we had a really great conversation on that. And I just want to encourage everybody to be having those conversations as we move into AI transformation, because do your children know what it could mean? Do they understand prompts? That's going to be a whole new skill set that's coming, that's going to take over the language of security as well. So just having those conversations, using this month to just reset and re-level. But as it is a special month, feels like a birthday month in cybersecurity, I have come bearing gifts. And one of those gifts is the Microsoft Digital Defense Report. Now, I don't know if any of you have already got your hands on this. I'm very impressed if you have. It came out, I think, Friday evening. Hopefully you're all busy on the weekends, just taking some time out. So I've picked out a few of my favorite things. For the second half of this talk, I just want to pick out what were my 3 favorite things that meant something to me, that mean something to the landscape, that I think are going to be really game-changing going forward, and that we're a part of at Microsoft, proactively every day being a part of. So that for me was collective defense. Now I do know that my little cut paste has put collective, both at top and bottom, but you can ignore that for now. I just pointed it out, so it's not the elephant in the room. So collective, I'm talking about community, partnership, cooperative. When I talk about defense, if we combine it with the collective, then I'm talking about, in this AI transformation, having one shared piece of intelligence, one piece powered by AI, be to the benefit of all. And what I loved about the Digital Defense Report is that it really focused on collective as examples, and it looked at collective defense. And here are my 3 favorite things that it talked about for the future. First, build and improve cyber resilience, without a doubt. I highly encourage you to go and take a look at the report, find out what the latest stats are in terms of threats, where they're coming from, where they're being distributed, and then closing those gaps and improving your security posture. I think that goes without saying. But I also want to talk to the bridge gap of cyber skills. I want to talk to you what we're doing. Feel free to add what you're doing. What are we all doing about that? And what does that look like at the moment? Because it's pretty scary. And then standardizing policy. So there's definitely a growing demand for regulation or guidance even. We're at the guidance stage of AI and policy. So I think there's some really good golden nuggets in there that you can get into, and I'm just going to highlight some of my favorites. So starting from the top. In the report, the headline that stood out to me first was around boiling point. So I'm loving all these analogies. I didn't make this one up. But if the statistics were coming to being a thermometer now, all this imagery and shape-shifting, it would be at boiling point. And some of the distribution stats that I saw around that, okay, so what does that mean? What type of attack should we be focusing? What should we be worried about? I was seeing that 80 to 90% of ransomware attacks were coming from unmanaged devices. So again, the foundational pieces, the foundational cyber hygiene, is your device up to date? Is it being managed? Are you letting employees use personal devices or just their work devices? Do they have that freedom of any time, anywhere? Is it managed? Is it secure? Is it patched? The foundation's there. Secondly, a shift in tactics. So they're now trying to exploit a lot of cloud computing. So I talked about multi-cloud. I talked about how identities now are looking at workload identities and not just people signing in. Then there was also about 70% of organizations encountering human-operated ransomware. So the cyber criminals are going old school. They're going retro. You know, where have we gone when we had 5-10 years of worrying about bots and credential stuffing and everything was getting powered and it was fast and it was scaling? Now they're thinking, well, okay, small, medium businesses, those under 500 employees. I know the state of the landscape. People are stressed. People are doing a lot. People are doing more than just their job. They're taking a human approach, human-operated approach to organizations under 500 employees. And then we did already talk about the password spike. It's incredible it's already doubled. I'm sure that's only going to continue. So really thinking about, are you still just using passwords? Or like me as a Microsoft employee, you know, I rush back from the school run, I open my laptop for my 9 a.m., it scans my face and does other things, and I'm already in. And whilst doing that, it's already analyzed loads of signals in the background about where Hope's logging on from, how she's used her login way, is this device secure? It's incredibly seamless and fast. So don't get in that trap of those password attacks per second. Make sure that your identity and access management strategy is way more modern than that. Having said about modern and innovative, was I surprised? I don't think I was, but I want to keep championing this basic hygiene in a world where everybody's excited about AI transformation, because again, the statistics are still telling us nearly 50% of attacks are still being distributed through identity and access management. Still. And still the stats remain that if you do the bare fundamentals, so if you, for example, get your employees to get multi-factor authentication, if you're making sure that your detection and response is multi-cloud, you can protect against 99% of attacks. Great report to the board, right? 99%. The skills gap. If we take our heads out of our own day jobs, those threats, those priorities, what are we doing collectively about the skills gap? It is very real. It is increasing at an alarming rate. And today, worldwide, it's increased by 35% in demand that we can't currently reach. And on this map here in the UK, we're about in that third group. So we're around the 20 to 30% growth in demand. But some of our neighbours, like Germany and France, they're moving into 30 to 40%. Great opportunity if you want to go and live and work somewhere else. But what I'm really asking for here is that we kind of become more aware of this, especially in Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And I'm not asking anyone to all become a cybersecurity expert, but how are we all doing our bit in the roles that we have today to help with that gap? So it's on the way up. 3.5 million cybersecurity jobs will be in demand in 2025. That is a staggering 350% increase in the last 8 years. I'm looking over this room now as well, and I'm wondering, with that demand and that skills back, how is diversity? How is diversity affected in that? And I can tell you already that there is still a gender disparity. So can I have a raise of hands if you're in this room and you are a woman, or if you identify as a woman? Okay, so point made, right? So we still have this gender disparity. It is an issue, and it's really important that we, again, collective defense, make sure, especially when we're thinking about AI models, how we prompt AI models, how we train AI models, how we use them. We need a diverse expertise. We need a diverse group of cybersecurity professionals in that. It is so important. And so to see that worldwide women are making up 25% of the security workforce, ooh, that's not good. It's not looking good for my daughters. And in the UK, 80% are male. So if you can get involved in doing something for Cybersecurity Awareness Month and beyond, please do. I really encourage you. Personally, at Microsoft, I'm involved in a lot of the Women in Cyber. So I do a lot of mentoring, not just in Microsoft UK, but I also do a lot of global mentoring. I also do a lot of talks. I'm actively this month going and speaking to young women early in career and letting them know that you don't actually just have to be technical, that there's a lot needed in soft skills. There's a lot needed in soft power as well in the cybersecurity industry. And that has absolutely filled my heart and filled my cup doing that. So I just ask of all of you, what are you doing? And at Microsoft, you'll see a lot in the Digital Defense Report about what we are doing. So we are expanding in cyber skills training over nearly 30 countries. We're empowering women with different initiatives, like some of those I mentioned. We're partnering with the likes of Women in Cybersecurity, both internally and in external groups. And we are actively training women to get involved, to get up to speed, and to be able to take on forward-looking employment opportunities. Last but not least, policy. Policy sets out with good intention, most of the time, to protect people. And so as we move towards AI transformation, people are looking for more standardized policies. They're looking for more ways when we get all excited about all the glamour and everything coming, when we think about world-class threat intelligence powered by AI. What is that artful combination then of AI, but with human leading? So the human element of that, we stay the director, we stay strategic, we stay creative. But we're going to take away a lot of that admin, a lot of that sifting for anomalies, a lot of that time that we can automate things and have everything contextualized at the speed of light. It is really exciting. But with that, people are really looking for guidance on how that's going to be regulated. And in the defense report, there's some really cool stuff in there, some really good visuals, for example, where you can really see how over the last 10 years, people have been thinking about implementing policies. They have successfully implemented AI policies. And just in this timeline alone, we can see when was an AI policy implemented, what year, and in what country or countries was it activated. So some of these, don't be fooled by this visual. The very beginning, that's actually got 3 years in it. And so the end's got 2. But you can see what else is interesting is there's not one country who's the top player in this. There's not one bubble and country that's staying the same throughout. This is something that we're working on, evolving on, and people are really asking for more guidance, and more guidance is needed. And we're actively taking part at Microsoft in being a member of lots of these groups, lots of these conversations about policy, about regulation, which I'm about to come on to in a second. But internally in practice, when we talk about security by design, we are focusing on 3 key principles. Those key principles are going to allow us to use AI to combat threats, but also to embrace our responsibility and our ethics around how we develop our security. So here's what they look like for Microsoft. First of all, providing training, another shameless plug for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Effective security training doesn't mean making everyone an expert, but just making sure that what they know complements everyone. That everybody just has an idea of what is the easy way in. What does it mean to be phished? What are the priorities? What are the weakest links for cyber criminals? Just that level of understanding so that we all think just a couple seconds longer before we click on something, before we access a site, before we use our work device versus our personal device. Just giving people enough that's complementary to their day-to-day. Second to that, defining security requirements. So just making sure that security and privacy is the absolute fundamental of everything we do, everything we develop, everything we ship, regardless of the development method that we choose. And then third and finally, on defining metrics and compliance reporting. This is all about having an agreed alignment of minimum acceptable levels of security quality, and then sticking to it, or being accountable to it. And there are 3 principles of design that we are personally taking on whilst we're not living in that regulatory time just yet. So the output of that, we already have our unique cyber-trained model. So we've got our large language model. It's pre-trained. We talked about those 65 trillion signals per day. It is powerful. It is already pre-training with telemetry and amazing intelligence to our natural language models. Natural language is fantastic. So if you're not technical, you're working with a new style of training now, which is prompts. Being able to prompt well, being able to know when to prompt, being able to give it prompts that might contradict, prompts that work together. So being able to use natural language. Being able to process any text-based security data. And then finally, just improving itself with use. It's always learning. It's always taking on feedback. So together at Microsoft, we've got this responsibility. It's top of mind. We're working together with different regulatory bodies. We're working together with some really cool initiatives that are happening digitally. We've got user trust and privacy top of mind. We're evolving with different practices, and we're ahead on setting industry standards. One cool thing I would love you all to look at in the report is the Cybercrime Atlas. So this is an open source initiative that Microsoft are taking part in. We're one of, I think it's just over 40 members now. And this is revolutionizing cybercrime. It is quite literally a digital atlas that is going to, in the spirit of collective defense, is going to take intelligence from all and give back to even more. So that thread, that shared intel that we have, those threat signals, those best practices, those regulatory guidances, so far, 40 organizations are all inputting into this, but wouldn't it be a wonderful world if there were millions of us? And with that, I will give the beautiful products of Microsoft a shameless plug. Here is the technology stack that we all know, our end-to-end solution, the platform that is multi-cloud, that is also multi-platform, that is our Microsoft security. And it can be overwhelming at times. It can be overwhelming to think, where should I focus first? Where should I focus next? Is everything connected? Is everything talking to each other? But a beautiful part of that that's coming with AI transformation is having Security Copilot at the absolute center of it. And imagine being able to ask it with natural language, have I done everything for identity and access management? Can you rate my current security posture based on what I did in the last 4 weeks? Can you tell me how many anomalies were spotted, detected, and responded to? Can you tell me just within my business, what are the trends in terms of where attacks are coming from? Like, imagine having that conversation, not with an account person, but with your own security co-pilot. And to wrap up then, I will show you, I just talked to some of how this can look with the products that some of you may have or be familiar with today. So with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Microsoft Sentinel, and with Intune, across all of those, with Security Copilot, you'll be able to, like the examples I just gave, give prompts in everyday language, get immediate speed of light results. Those results could be for you to inform what you're going to do that day, that week, that month, but they can also report and summarize to the board. They can also give visual graphs. So being able to explain things that are very complex to the board who may not even be technical and where the gaps are and why they need to invest yesterday, beautiful. Let Copilot do that for you. Upskilling teams. Again, I talked about using prompts versus like where security teams would need to know the security language to be able to spot anomalies. Let Copilot upskill everybody to that level. That's pretty phenomenal, especially with a skills gap. And then we look at reverse engineering a malware. So having that immediate context, that immediate thread throughout where malware's come from, what it's affected, what's been compromised. And then finally, enriching alerts. So that's just on the Defender. When we look at Sentinel, taking and ingesting all of those logs, we're enriching our incidents. And when we look at Intune, we're able to assess the security posture of every device. So I mentioned about 135 million devices. Tell me which one needs updating. Tell me which one is the anomaly, where are their weak points, and who's got access to that. So with that, I'm just going to leave you with a couple of words from me. I think collective defense is really important. So when it comes to thinking about the global threat landscape, what Microsoft are doing, please take home those words, collective defense. You know, with our partners and how we partner with COCHO, it's really important to us that we're doing that as a collective, that we are a community wider than that as well. And when it comes to AI transformation, it's going to be more important than ever. It's not that people should be afraid of losing jobs. It's that people are going to be empowered and relied upon with each other even more. And that can be done with Microsoft Cloud, with Security Copilot. But also outside of business, let's all see what we can do outside of our day jobs. How do we work together to make sure that we're shaping a responsible world, a secure world, and a diverse world? But that's all I wanted to talk to you today. I'm Hope Chauland, and thank you very much for having me at the end of your day.